Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to TCCA 2020. As you all know, that this year is a little bit different than what we're used to, but we are watching from all over the world, and we are so grateful to have Jake Miller presenting to us. And so if you have any comments or questions, make sure you put them in the chat box. We're going to get them to him, and we'll be monitoring, and we'll also leave a little bit of time at the end for any discussion. So without any further ado, Jake, it is all yours.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sandy. Good afternoon, everybody. It's great to be here. Last year for TCCA 2019, I got to be in Aldine in person, which was a blast. I had a great day. I have great memories of that day. I wish I was there this year, but it is nice that in this format, we get to have a wider reach with our audience, right? We get to bring in our Aldine people, our Houston area, Texas people. We also get to reach out to who knows who and where at, right? All over the place. But in this session, we're going to talk about my 4 MVPs of remote and blended learning from a hashtag EduDuctTape mindset. And I'll describe, some of you might be looking at that thinking, well, Jake, what do you mean by MVPs? Why are these your MVPs? And second, how do you define blended learning? And third, what is a hashtag EduDuctTape mindset? Now, some of you guys might be in the know on all of this and you might be good on that, but just in case, you'll find out about what all that stuff is and where it all comes from as we get started here. Now, you can access these slides at that link that you see in the comments there, which is jakemiller.net/4MVPs. And you can also see that link on your screen right there in the bottom of my slide there, jakemiller.net/4MVPs. Now, before we get into what we're going to talk about today, a little bit about me. My name is Jake Miller. You see my contact information here on the screen. Please feel free to reach out with any questions you have or anything you want to share with me. Education is my day job, but education is also my passion. Educational technology, I should say, is my passion. And supporting educators in the use of educational technology truly, truly is a passion of mine. So if you have a question about one of the tools we talk about, please do reach out. I really enjoy supporting educators with that. I know that sounds like a super nerdy thing to say, but it's true. I really do enjoy talking about it. And the same goes with if you start using a new tool next week or in 2 weeks because of what we talk about today, and you just want to share with it. Like, that's my favorite stuff to hear about. So please do reach out at this contact information here. Also, not only am I this educational technology geek, I also, as I mentioned, education is my day job. I am a 8th grade science teacher, currently completely remote, but my district is hoping to move back to a hybrid learning model here pretty soon, where we're remote some of the time, students are remote some of the time and in person other times. But currently I'm teaching fully remotely 8th grade science. The 4 years prior, I was in a educational technology coaching role with the same school district, but due to some budget cuts, got moved back into the classroom, which, as much as I miss that educational technology coaching role, it is kind of nice that I went from 4 years of recommending technologies to educators to now I get to try them out with my own students. I just didn't foresee doing it on Zoom calls and things like that, but still, it is nice trying them out with students in the classroom, virtual as it may be, as we're doing this year. So it is kind of nice to be able to have that opportunity to do that again. Okay. Now, as I mentioned, jakemiller.net/4MVPs is the link you can go to access these slides, also to access my contact information if you need it. But it's also the link to go to if you would like to try to win one of the giveaways I do at every session. Okay. So I do 2 giveaways every session that I do, one of which is a sticker, and you get to pick which sticker you get, and I will send it to you in the mail. And I promise I will Clorox wipe the sticker before I send it to you. And I will Clorox wipe the envelope before I send it to you, just in case. I don't want to send any Ohio germs to Texas. Who knows what will happen, right? So I will wipe everything down before I send. Maybe I'll give it a little spritz with some Clorox as it goes out the door into the mailbox as well. And you'll pick what sticker you get. You might pick the correct sticker, which is this sticker that I made that says it's pronounced GIF, like a gift right there. That's the one that I believe to be correct. Or you might select this other sticker, which says it's pronounced Jif, like the peanut butter. I don't like that one anywhere near as much, but if you choose it, I will send it to you. I don't judge you. I'll still be friends with you if you select the peanut butter one. I should say, I have a black book sitting back here over my shoulder. And in that book, I list every educator who ever attends a professional development session that I lead. It's going to be a little bit harder to figure it out today because you are not all in person, but I'll get your names all in there. And if you're the winner and you select the peanut butter sticker, I put a frowny face by your name, but you're still in the book. And I'll still help you with educational technology. You just get a little frowny face by your name. Now, the other prize that I give away in every session I do is registration in an online learning cohort that I do called GIF a Day. And I'm not currently running GIF a Day right now. This whole remote teaching and pandemic lifestyle is keeping me a little too busy to run a cohort of this, but hopefully in the near future, I'll start one up again, and one person will win registration in it. And what GIF a Day is the registrants receive from me in their email every weekday for a series of weekdays, a GIF teaching them another skill within one certain set of skills, leveling them up in a certain platform. So currently I tend to run it on Google Sheets. And so one morning you might receive an email from me teaching you how to do a formula in Google Sheets. And the next morning you might receive an email with a GIF teaching you how to filter in Google Sheets. And the next morning you might receive an email with a GIF teaching you how to sort in Google Sheets. And then by the end of 29 days of that, which I think it's 29 in that current cohort or current model of the cohort, you'll be a master in using Google Sheets, or a ninja, as I call it in the course. But anyhow, one of you will win one of those stickers. One of you will win one of those registrations. And to do that, you've got to fill out the form that's at that link right there, jakemiller.net/4MVPs. Okay, so let's get into the session that those slides will be at that link to. And the session is the 4 MVPs of remote and blended learning from a #EduDuctTape mindset. So let's break down some of those words in that title there. Lorianne, by the way, thank you for agreeing with me. It's not pronounced like the peanut butter. And Wandering Mama Bug, I'm with you on the science. We're currently doing some deposition and erosion in my class right now, having fun talking about Earth. And Stephanie's enjoying some of the tweets I've been sharing out. It's so much fun finding stuff and sharing it out there on Twitter, Stephanie. So I'm glad you enjoyed it. So anyhow, let's get into the title of this session and kind of break down some of the parts in here. So first up, it says remote and blended learning. So first of all, blended learning to me, I've been cringing lately. I've been hearing some administrators and people who maybe aren't as in the classroom in the know or in the know about technology saying that we're going to a blended learning model. Blended learning is not some school at home and some school in person. Blended learning has been around for years, and what we call blended learning is using some face-to-face and analog learning activities, some in the book, some in paper learning, and some digital learning. We blend the two of them together. That's blended learning. This other is hybrid learning, is what I like to call it. So when I say blended learning, I'm really talking about in-person with educational technology and non-educational technology instruction as well. Remote learning, of course, is fully remote over Zoom or Google Meet or what have you. And then there's obviously a hybrid model, which falls somewhere in between the two of them. So these tools we're going to talk about, I think, are great for any of those settings. Okay, now why are they my MVPs? Well, these are 4 tools that I've selected as being the most valuable tools for your classroom, whether you're fully in person and having some technology there, or whether you're fully remote and leveraging technology a lot, or whether you're somewhere in the middle. These are the 4 tools that I think are MVPs in that situation. Now, how did I identify that they were MVPs? Well, I used what I call an educational duct tape mindset. The educational duct tape mindset is a mindset that I talk about a lot on my podcast, the Educational Duct Tape podcast, and just a lot about education. When I talk about educational technology in general, this is the mindset that I use to choose when to use an educational technology and what educational technology to use. So to help you understand what educational duct tape is, I got a little story for you. And the story is of this inflatable bounce house, which is currently in the room right through this wall in there, sitting on a shelf all folded up, is this bounce house. Now, years ago, my wife showed me a picture of this bounce house on her cell phone. We were cleaning the house in the kitchen in the evening and packing lunches for the next day. Our 3 kids were finally in bed and finally asleep. We had finally finished reading all of the books that they requested. And my wife showed me this picture and she said, "I'd like to get this bounce house for the kids for Christmas." And I said, "What? Are you kidding me? It says it's an 8-foot diameter bounce house. Where would we put an 8-foot diameter inflatable bounce house in our house? We currently can't walk in a 2-foot diameter space without stepping on an LOL doll or a Lego. Where would we fit this? Why would you want to get this?" And she said, "Because it'll make the kids happy." And I was like, "All right, okay." You win. You're right. It will make the kids happy. I probably didn't have a choice in the matter in the first place, but you're absolutely right. This is a good choice because it'll make the kids happy. So she ordered it then and there. It showed up on December 24th, delivered by the man in the big red suit who did not inflate it. And that began the love-hate relationship between me and this bounce house, because I loved how happy it made my kids on Christmas morning. I loved hearing them laugh and giggle when they were playing in it, but I hated that I was the guy who had to inflate it, right? I was the guy who 2 days later, when the kids were over it, just like they're over all of their Christmas toys, and it was in their way, I was the guy who had to put it away. I was the guy who had to open up all the air holes, and I was the guy who had to roll around on top of it like a 6'4" rolling pin, trying to push all the air out of it. I was the guy who had to fold it up and put it away. But I loved that a month or two later, when it was a snowy day and my kids were restless and needed something to do, I could pull back out this bounce house and they had a blast in it. But I hated that the next day when they were over it again, I was the guy who had to fold it up and deflate it and put it away. I loved getting it out and hearing them playing it. I hated this pattern of, deflate, 6'4" rolling pin, back and forth, fold up, put away, get back out, inflate, deflate, rolling pin, inflate, deflate, rolling pin, over and over again. Until one day I was inflating the bounce house and I heard this sound, and I turned into Mr. Burns from The Simpsons. You know Mr. Burns? I went, yes, excellent. Because I knew that I could finally throw the darn thing away. Until I looked at my kids and they were giggling at the noise. And I was like, oh, look at them. They're adorable. They love this bounce house. I can't throw it away. I have to fix it for them. Any guesses what I used to repair the hole in this bounce house that was leaking air? I'm watching the comments. Let's see. Anna Maria, hello. It's good to see you. Mary, hello. I'm waiting for my answer, though. What did we use to patch this bounce house? Oops. I just gave you a clue on accident. Oh, no. You guys are like my students. There we got an answer from Team TCCA 2020. It's duct tape. I use duct tape. This is like just like remote teaching right here. You ask a question and you hope somebody's going to answer for you. You're just hoping somebody please answer my question. And you guys are right. I absolutely did use duct tape for it. Wandering Mama Bug. I'm sure I could have used a tire patch for it as well if I had one, but I'd have to use duct tape to patch my bike tires as well. So I used duct tape to patch the bounce house, and it worked great. Duct tape was the perfect tool, maybe not the perfect tool, but a great tool for solving that problem for me, a great tool for patching that hole in that bounce house. And my kids had fun playing in it all day thanks to that duct tape. Now, it's important to understand that I look at situations like this from a goal and tools perspective. I think, what's my goal? Which in that situation was to patch a hole in the bounce house. And I think, what tool will help me with that goal? And that tool in this situation was duct tape. This is the perspective, this is the mindset that I take to educational technology too, okay? I think about, what is my goal and what tool will get me there? That day, I didn't wake up thinking, today I'm going to use duct tape. I woke up thinking, today, actually, before that, I said, today I'm going to play with the kids. And then the bounce house became a tool for that. And then my new goal became, today I need to patch that hole. And then my new tool for that became duct tape. So the duct tape and the bounce house were just tools helping me get to my main goal, which was having a fun day with my kids. And I believe we should look at educational technology in the same way. Educational technology is at its most useful when it's not the goal of the lesson, but a tool used to solve a problem or meet a goal. Again, educational technology is at its most useful when it is not the goal of the lesson, but a tool used to solve a problem or meet a goal. This is the mindset that I take to educational technology. This is the mindset that I approach all situations as an educator with. If I think about, what is my problem and what is my goal, is there a way I could use technology as a tool to solve that or meet that goal? Not always. Sometimes we could do it without educational technology. But currently, 2020, lots of remote learning and stuff going on. Typically, the answer, the tool, is an educational technology tool. It doesn't have to be, right? But oftentimes, it's the best tool for us to use. Okay. And that's how I approach all of these decisions in the classroom. And so almost 2 years ago, I started a podcast called the Educational Duct Tape Podcast, where this is exactly what we do. I have a different guest on every episode, and I ask the guest a question that an educator might have. How can I formatively assess my students? Or how can I help my students take ownership over their learning? Or how can I help my students display their learning in a way that their parents can see it? Or how can I don't know, how can I help my students give each other feedback? Or how can I give my students good feedback? Or how can I amplify my students' voices? Any questions that we might have as an educator, and the guest and I then come up with answers. And two things that I love about that is oftentimes the guest has one answer, one tech tool, and I have a different answer, a different tech tool. And sometimes the guest has 3 and I have 3. Sometimes we have more than that. Sometimes there's lots of educational technology tools to solve the problem. And I like that focuses us in on and reminds us of the fact that there's not always one tool for the job. So if anybody says, this is the tool you should use for this, they're wrong. That's the tool they should use for that. And that's the tool that they recommend for that. But it doesn't mean it's the only tool for you. You have to think about what technology tool is best for you as a teacher, your style, your classroom, your content, your students, your technology comfort, the technology you have access to, all of these things. What educational technology is best for you? And that's what we try to do on the podcast. Okay. That's also what I tried to do coming out of the 2019-2020 school year. We were in straight up survival mode in the spring, right? Doing whatever we had to do to get us and our students through that school year with as much learning and positive experiences happening as possible. And then in the summer, we got a break, a very short break. And I was able to think about, okay, as we go into this next school year, I want to be purposeful. What educational technologies can I expose my students or the teachers that I work with to that will support them in meeting their goals? What I wanted to avoid was teachers having to learn 20 new tools, right? It's not possible. It's not fair. It's too difficult. It waters down results when you're trying to use too many things at once, right? It makes it too hard. So I try to think, what tools can I use? What are my high yield tools? What are some tools that I could use that'll do lots of things for me? So I learned this one tool and it knocks off 5 goals off my list, not just one. Right? What are some tools that could do lots of things for me? So I said, first, educational duct tape, Jake, you've got to think about what are your goals. So I sat down and I listed my goals in my classroom. Now, these are my goals for my classroom that I knew were true, whether we'd be blended, in person using technology, blended learning, or remote, meaning not in our classroom at all, leaning on educational technology completely, or hybrid, meaning, in person some of the time and remote other times. What goals do I have? And these are the goals that I identified. Yours might be different. You might take some of these out. You might add some in. You might combine some of them. But these are the 15 goals that I identified. Okay. First of all, I need to hear from my students. Okay. Second, I need to deliver engaging instruction to my students. Okay. Third, I need interactivity. I don't want to just send videos out to them. I want them to interact back with me. Okay. I need to build rapport with my kids. In my classroom, face-to-face years ago, this didn't have to be a goal that I really focused on. This was something that I was able to just make happen, right? You could do it as you were passing your students in the hallway, or as they were entering or leaving class, or during activities when everybody's working independently and you could chat with them. It was one of your goals, but it was an easy one to mark off. Nowadays, especially if we're remote, it's something we really have to focus in on. So this was definitely one of my goals. Formative assessment. I need to know how well my students understand the content I'm teaching to them. Amplifying student voices. It's important for me that my students see their knowledge and their voice as being valuable outside of just taking a test, right? I wanted to amplify their voices. Feed forward. This is the word I like to use for feedback. In other words, not only am I giving my kids feedback, they're using it moving forward to do even better. So I like to say feed forward. I also want feed forward from them. I want to know how effective I'm being and how they feel about it so that I could do better moving forward. And I want them to do the same thing for each other. I want them to give each other feedback that supports them in moving forward. Okay. I need to do summative assessment. It's not as big a priority for me as formative assessment is, but it's just part of what we do. It's part of what my school expects of me. And it does have its role in education. So I do need to do some formative assessment. Rich methods of assessment, this is my preference, which can kind of be the same as summative assessment. But when I say rich, I mean not just did they know the answers, but how did they know the answers? How did they think through the answers? How are they feeling? How confident are they? I want to really understand. I want to like open up my kid's brain and really know what they know. Okay. Next, I need to communicate with families. I need to meet my students' social emotional needs. I need to deliver content to them, and I need to differentiate both my instruction to the students and how they show their learning. Now, as I said, these 15 goals don't come from like the ASCD or some heavily researched book or John Hattie or something like that, or a college class that I took umpteen years ago. These are my goals in my classroom. So yours might be different, okay? You might say, well, content delivery and engaging instruction are really the same. I'm going to combine them on my list. Okay, go ahead. You might say, I include interactivity as being part of engaging instruction. Okay, go for it. Or feed forward, I'm just going to combine that into one. All right, that's fine. Whatever you want to do. But the important point is to start off by identifying what your goals are. And that's what I was doing in this situation. I should also point out before we dive into what tools are good for these, that I also thought about I should also point out that I'm not doing a fantastic job at all of these right now in my setting. This is my first time teaching 8th grade science in about 9 years. This is my first time doing it remote. So I can't possibly, I'm human. I can't do all of these 15 goals really, really well. That doesn't mean they're not my goals anymore. It just means I have to prioritize some of them over others. For example, communicating with families is something that I know right now I could be doing a better job of. But I teach 8th grade, so I know that it's not as big of a priority as it would be if I taught 1st grade, right? So I've kind of prioritize these in my mind, and I think about what things are more important than other things in certain situations. And I'll get to the other ones later. We can't do all 15 things at once, okay? We could try, but we probably won't be effective in that situation, okay? So take it as works best for your situation. So I thought, what are my high yield tools? What are some technology tools that will do almost all of these things for me? For example, I said that one area I could do better in is communicating with families. Well, I could use Remind for that. It used to be called Remind 101. Some of you guys probably use it. It's a great tool. But if I think about using Remind, how many things on this list does it do? Not very many, right? And that's okay. That's not what the tool's made for. It really just does communicating with families. You can argue that it can do a couple of those other things too, but for the most part, it's just a single goal tool for me. Doesn't mean don't use it. It means maybe if I only have time to learn one tool, maybe that's not the one I learn because it's not hitting on a lot of these goals. So let's talk about some tools that hit on a lot of them. So the first one I identified was Flipgrid. Okay, for those of you that don't know Flipgrid, where have you been for the last 2 years? Okay. But if you don't know Flipgrid, it is a tool that at its very core, the teacher sends a prompt to the students with or without video. The students respond back to the teacher with video. And then the teacher decides if they want the classmates to see each other's videos or not. And then the teacher decides if they want the kids to respond to each other or not. And then the teacher could respond back to the kid too. Okay, that's at its core. That's what Flipgrid is. Flipgrid also is a tool using what's called Flipgrid Shorts that lets the teacher send a video out without asking for responses, just a way to host your videos to be seen by the students or the parents too. So which things on this list does Flipgrid hit? Well, it certainly lets me hear from my students because they're responding with video to my prompts. It certainly is interactive because I send out content, a prompt, and they respond back to me. Therefore, they are interacting, right? I'm skipping over engaging instruction, but you could probably argue that you can do engaging instruction with Flipgrid too. So maybe I don't know. I think I might need to go back and add that in on this slide. It's not there now. It will pretend it's there. It certainly helps me build rapport with my students because if we're communicating back and forth via video, how could we not build rapport that way, right? Especially if I'm asking the right question. It's great for formative assessment. I really know what my students do and don't understand and how they understand it. It's not the most efficient formative assessment tool. You know, tools like Quizzes and Quizlet and Kahoot and Gimkit and things like that are more efficient formative assessment tools, but that doesn't mean Flipgrid doesn't have a place for us in formative assessment. Okay, it can help me amplify student voices because number one, they're practicing their speaking and their sharing of content, and then I can amplify it to the classroom, and then I can amplify it to their parents, and then to the school, and then wider that if I have permission to do so. It helps me with feed forward because I can give my students feedback on the videos they submit. I can give my students rubric-based feedback. I can give my students text-based feedback that could be private to the student or public to all the other kids to see. I can give my students video-based feedback that, again, could be just for the student to see or for the other classmates to see. So lots of ways for feedback that kids can use moving forward. Students could give me feedback too that could help me moving forward. And students can give each other feedback that could help them moving forward. Okay. I wouldn't say it's a summative assessment tool. You could argue you could do a summative assessment with Flipgrid, and I would actually mark those summative assessments as a rich method of assessment, because not only do I know, do my students know if glacial drift is deposition or erosion? Sorry, science teacher talk. But I know how well they know it, how they understand it. Can they explain why it is, right? I have a really rich understanding of how well my students understand that content, how they feel about it. It's great for communicating with families because I can send the families those shorts videos. I can also have my families respond with videos if I really want to. It's fantastic for social emotional needs. Anytime I'm talking back and forth with students, it's got to be great for it, right? Especially if I use it correctly. Okay. I could use it to deliver content to students. And I could use it for differentiation because I can ask different students to respond in different ways and have some differentiation built into it, right? Where the students can have the question on their screen while they're responding. They could prepare notes for themselves while they're responding. They could use the immersive reader to have the question or prompt read aloud to them. There's captioning built into there in a number of the most common languages in our society. So there's lots of opportunities for differentiation. The kids can record their videos with their cameras off. They could record their videos with just their screen. They could write on screen. They could use text on screen. Lots of different ways for me to differentiate what I'm giving to the kids and the way they're responding to them. So we look at this chart and we see, oh my gosh, it knocks off 13 of Jake's 15 goals. And we said, you could probably say it's engaging instruction too. You could probably say it's summative assessment too. So maybe it's all 15 of these. So this is an MVP for me. Now I have to be honest. I'm not using Flipgrid a lot in my classroom this year, even though it's one of my MVPs. Here's why I'm not. In my school, the plan for the school is that while we're remote, we teach all of our classes, most of the content synchronously in Zoom calls. Okay. That's just our school's plan. And so in that situation, there's not a whole lot of times where I need Flipgrid. I'm still using it some, but not as much as I might use in a different situation. And the reason I point that out is because even though these are my MVP tools, doesn't mean everybody should use all of them. And doesn't mean everybody should use all of them the same way. You've got to think about what are your goals and what's specific about your situation that supports these things that you're doing here. Jumping over to the chat here really quick. Anna Maria, thank you for the kind feedback about this chart and about the podcast. I really appreciate that. And Kim, I love that you shared how helpful Flipgrid was for you guys in the spring. I hope it's still helping you in the fall. It is really great for engagement and for community building in the classroom. I agree. Now, when we think about these situations that Kim's kind of alluding to there, where we're trying to build that community in our school, but we're in a remote learning setting, we end up using the word but a lot. And what I'd like to encourage you to do is take the word but out and use the word and instead. I'm trying to build community in my school, but we're in remote learning. I'm trying to build community in my school and we're in remote learning. That word and lets me think about, how can I do this in this setting? Not, I can't do this in my setting. Does that make sense? I got this concept from a guy named Bernard Roth, who's the author of a book called The Achievement Habit, Stop Wishing, Start Doing, and Take Command of Your Life. And he said, when you open up the dialogue with and, your brain gets to consider how it could deal with both parts of the sentence. So building community and remote learning. That lets your brain think about both of them, not just one of them. We get to think about both of them. Okay. And when we do that, we get to be a little more flexible with our thinking. Okay. For example, this is my dog, Kermit. And Kermit is sitting in this picture next to his tennis ball because it is Kermit's favorite thing in the world is playing fetch. First is playing fetch and second is his dad. That's me. I'm his favorite human in the house, but he prefers fetch over me. I could deal with that. I understand that. Kermit loves to play fetch. And Kermit thinks that whenever he hears me start the lawnmower, Kermit thinks that that means that he gets to play fetch. Kermit thinks that anytime I'm mowing the lawn, it's also time for fetch. Now, there's a possibility that I could think Kermit likes to play fetch, but I need to mow the lawn. And that makes it sound like, sorry, Kermit, either I'm going to play fetch with you or I'm going to mow the lawn. You don't get to have this situation where I'm mowing the lawn and playing fetch, right? I'm doing one or the other. Sorry, no fetch for you. We're mowing the lawn instead. Okay. Or sorry, lawn, you don't get mowed. I'm going to play fetch instead. I'm going to turn off the comments on my screen here so I don't have to see that spam and the messages there. So instead, I replace the but in this sentence with the word and. Kermit likes to play fetch and I need to mow the lawn, right? And so what I did is I thought about, how can I do both of these things? Let's open up this decision to both of them. And what I did was I bought a ball thrower like this off of Amazon. And this ball thrower is long enough and throws far enough that while I'm mowing, I could reach down, grab the ball, and give it a launch for Kermit. And we have this little thing going where he runs up right next to me. I grab it, I throw it, and I keep on moving and barely even breaking stride because of the word and. Okay, so thinking about, I need to build community in my school and I'm in remote learning. Okay, I need to deliver content to my students and I'm in remote learning. So let's talk about my second tool here, my second MVP in this and situation, and it is screencasting. Most two common tools that we see educators use for screencasting are Screencastify and Loom. Okay. Some educators might use the screencasting option in Flipgrid. That's great too. Some educators might use WeVideo or QuickTime or Screencast-O-Matic. Those are all great. So any screencasting tool is my second MVP. By the way, Screencast-O-Matic, the nice thing about Screencast-O-Matic is that they have captions built into it, different options in the free and pro version. But if that's an important thing for you to be able to easily put closed captioning in your videos, you might want to look at Screencast-O-Matic. But I love Screencastify and Loom too. So let's look at what boxes Loom and Screencastify and Screencast-O-Matic and WeVideo and any screencasting tool checks off for me. First of all, could my students record videos and send them back to me so I could hear from them? Yes. Could my engaging be more instruction by using this? I'm sorry. Could my instruction be more engaging by using these? Yes. It's got my face and my voice. Obviously, it's going to be more engaging to my students than a stranger. Okay. Oh, this is a really cool stranger. Could it be more interactive? I think we're going to skip over interactive for this, but could it help with building rapport? Yeah, if I'm recording videos and maybe my students are recording videos, it's instantly, I think, more rapport than just if it's all text-based stuff. Okay. Could I amplify student voices? Yeah, I could have them record videos and share them. Okay. Could I use it for feedback in a way that moves students moving forward? Yes, certainly it's great for feed forward because I think that students are more likely to listen to a video of me giving them feedback on a project than they are to read text of me giving them feedback on a project, okay? I don't use this all the time because it takes some time to record those videos, but I think it's a great way to give students feedback that helps them moving forward. I think it's a great way for them to give me feedback. I think it's a great way for them to give each other peer feedback, right? So peer review, okay? I think it also could be a great rich method of assessment where I actually can understand my students' thinking, my students' knowledge. I can actually peek into their brain because they're not just answering a multiple choice question, they're recording a video about a concept. So it could be a rich method of assessment. I could record videos to send home to my families, right? And I could certainly deliver content with it. I would also argue that I could use it for differentiation because I could record different videos for different students, or I could record videos to supplement text-based resources, right? And some of these video tools also build in, some closed captioning and things like that that bring differentiation to the classroom. So look at my chart. We have knocked off so many things on this chart here. By the way, I have a resource on my site comparing Screencastify and Loom. If you're trying to decide between Screencastify and Loom, you're welcome to hop over on my site and check out that comparison. I do hope to add more to that and compare it to Screencastify and things like that. I'm sorry, Screencast-O-Matic and things like that in a few minutes, or I'm sorry, in the future. Wandering Mama Bug wants to know if the mower freaks Kermit out. No, it doesn't. He knows not to go in front of it, but he's comfortable going beside the mower. He gets a little nervous when his ball gets too close to it, but he's not scared of the lawnmower. Okay. Now, for our next tool, I want to tell you about a situation I had. So I used to teach an 8th grade STEM course. And after the first quarter, I moved this STEM course from being a teacher-paced course to being a student-paced course, where the students were in charge of the pace they moved through my content. Everybody did the same stuff, but they were able to move faster or slower based on their comfort, their level, their processing speed, all kinds of different things. So I ended up recording a lot of different videos for my students because I couldn't just give instruction to everybody at the same time, because they weren't all on the same things at the same time. So this particular screenshot of a video you see here was a video where I was introducing a basswood bridge building project to my students. So my students had to design their own bridge, build their own bridge, and then we tested them to see how strong the different bridges were. And so this was my video going over how to make their plan, how to use the X-Acto knife, the regulations for their bridge and things like that. And certainly I needed to teach my 8th graders how to safely use an X-Acto knife, right? And I can remember this one student, his name was Jesse, coming up to me, and Jesse said, "Mr. Miller, I'm ready for the wood for my bridge." And I said, "All right, Jesse, well, I need to see your plan first. Can you show me your plan?" And he said, "What plan? I don't have any plan." And I said, "Well, in the video, I told you had to make a plan in Google Drawings. You would show it from 2 different angles. You'd list all the measurements. Then call me over. I'll look at it. I'll give you some feedback. You'll revise it if needed. And then once I approve it, you'll get your materials to start building." He said, "I don't remember that part of the video." Now, Jesse clearly did not watch the video, or not all of it at least, and wasn't willing to admit it. So I asked Jesse a question. I said, "Jesse, what did I look like in the video?" Now, what you need to know is, as you can see in that video, I had glasses at the time, and I had a beard at the time, and a different hairstyle at the time too. But the time I had Jesse in class, I had the same hair, but no glasses and no beard. I had LASIK eye surgery, and I had shaved my beard off for the springtime. And so I looked very different in person. So I said this to Jesse, "What did I look like in the video?" And now his friend is in the background trying to signal Jesse and saying, "Glasses, beard, glasses, beard." But Jesse didn't hear him. Jesse didn't hear him. And Jesse said, and I swear I'm not making this up. This is really what he said. He said, "You looked handsome." I'll never forget that day. And I said, "Well, Jesse, thank you. I appreciate that. But no, what did I look different in the video at all? Was anything different about me?" And Jesse said, "No, you pretty much look like you, Mr. Miller." And I said, "Did I have glasses in the video?" And he said, "Mr. Miller, you don't wear glasses." And I said, "In the video I did, Jesse." I said, "Did I have a beard in the video?" And he said, "Mr. Miller, you don't have a beard." And I said, "In the video I did, Jesse." So Jesse and I both realized we had work to do, right? Jesse needed to go watch the video, and I needed to find a way to make sure my students actually watched the videos I recorded for them. And the tool that I used in that situation was EdPuzzle. Now, this is an old screenshot of EdPuzzle. I need to update this to what it looks like now. But you could see that you could take your video, whether it's your video or somebody else's video you found on YouTube, and embed questions and prompts in throughout the video. And then as the teacher, when it's all done, you could see, did the student watch the video? You see the kid's name here is blurred out. How much of the video did they watch? Did they rewatch any parts of it? So I would know if Jesse had watched or not. Now, the one thing I wasn't even prioritizing is I'd also know, if you look at the little red question marks there, I would know what misconceptions Jesse had before he started building the bridge. Hopefully he didn't misunderstand how to build or how to use an X-Acto knife safely. But if he did, I could talk to him about it before he started. So it also was a formative assessment tool for me that changed the instructions that I gave to Jesse or whoever moving forward. So EdPuzzle is my third tool to put on the chart. And if you're using video in your classroom and you're not using EdPuzzle, you're crazy. Now, you could also be using EdPuzzle's competitor called PlayPosit, another great tool, or Nearpod, which now does this with videos, another great tool. So any of the 3 of them. And then there are some other ways you could potentially do this, but those are kind of the 3 best tools for building formative assessment and compliance. I don't like to do compliance too much, but I need to make sure Jesse watched the video, right? Into video-based situations. Okay, so let's look at where EdPuzzle fits here. So can EdPuzzle help make my instruction more engaging? Yeah, the kids are actually engaging with the video while they're watching it. Can it make my video more interactive? Yeah, they've got to respond. Okay. Can it build formative assessment into my video? Yeah, I see if they're getting questions right or wrong as they go through it. And if there are multiple choice-based questions, the kids see it auto-graded as they're going and can get some feedback as they go. Okay. Can it help me do things like build rapport or hear from my students or amplify student voices? Not really. Can it help me with feed forward? Yeah, because if it's formatively assessing them, then it gives me a mode, a information to start off the feedback cycle with, right? Can they give me feedback within it? Yeah, they could give me feedback on the lesson or the video as they go. And their understanding gives me feedback too. Not really a tool for them to give each other feedback or for summative assessment. Maybe you could come up with a hack to do those things. Not really a tool for rich methods of assessment or communicating with families or social emotional needs either. You can maybe find ways to do it, but it's definitely a good tool for content delivery. Okay, and you not a fantastic differentiation tool, but there are some accessibility features that do work in EdPuzzle. So it's not horrible in terms of differentiation. It's just not a tool that's really great for doing differentiation. But you can see here, it does mark off lots of our things here. Okay. Now, when I think about these different tools, I think about them from an E plus R equals O mindset. So I mentioned earlier that I wasn't using Flipgrid a lot this school year. And I'm actually not using Screencastify or Loom or EdPuzzle a lot this year either. I've used them all a little bit, but I'm not using them a lot. And the reason I'm not using them a lot, even though they're 3 of my 4 MVPs, is because of E plus R equals O. So E plus R equals O, you see it on my bracelet that I'm wearing right now, is an equation that came originally from a guy named Jack Canfield. And Jack Canfield, motivational speaker and one of the original authors of the Chicken Soup for the Soul books. And now a lot of different motivational speakers speak on E plus R equals O. They tend to say that this equation can solve any problem you have in life. And I disagree with that because not all problems are created equal. But it is a mindset that you could take towards helping you solve any of these problems that you do have. So why aren't I using Flipgrid and Screencastify and EdPuzzle a lot in my classroom? Well, it's because of E plus R equals O. I think about the event. I'm teaching remote, 8th grade, science, lots of synchronous time on Zoom with my students. And I'm thinking about the outcomes that I want for them, right? I want them to learn. I want to build rapport with them. I want to make sure they're participating. I want to be able to let them turn off their webcams if they're not comfortable with them on, but yet I want to have a way to make sure they're participating. I want to make sure they're understanding everything. So I clearly define my outcome. No control over my event. I do have control. I know control over my event. I have an outcome in mind, and then I could select a response, the one thing I have control over that helps me get there. And so the response that I've selected in my setting is using Pear Deck. Okay, that's the tool that my school has access to here. Nearpod, another great competitor to Pear Deck. You really can't go wrong with either of them. I do have a draft of a comparison between the two tools that I could share with you if you reach out to me. But Pear Deck is the educational technology tool that I'm using the most this year because E plus R equals O, it is the best response for my event to get me to the outcome. It doesn't make Flipgrid bad or Screencastify bad or Loom bad or EdPuzzle bad or PlayPause bad. It's just the best one for me. And you might find it be different for you. Okay. But Nearpod and Pear Deck, and there's a couple other similar tools like the Answer Pad. But what they do is they take kind of like a slideshow with some engaging content and then build in some interaction. So you can ask your students to draw or respond with text or respond with a multiple choice question or drag something to a spot on the screen. And so I could deliver instruction and have my students interact and formatively assess my students as I go. And so in my setting, it's a really high yield tool for me because of the particulars of the setting that I'm in my situation. Okay, so do Pear Deck and Nearpod help you hear from your students? Yes, certainly. Not necessarily audio and video based, but throughout the lesson, they could draw pictures in response to me. They could rate things on a multiple choice scale. They could rate things on a scale of I don't understand to I do understand, put it on a scale, or they could respond with text. So I can hear a lot from my students. And I could actually put something like a Flipgrid into my Pear Deck or my Nearpod, whichever I'm using, and have them respond there. So certainly there's lots of ways for Pear Deck and Nearpod to do that in that situation. Okay. Can it help my instruction be more engaging? Yeah, right. They're actually participating in the instruction too. So not only is it one-way instruction, therefore it's interactive, my next thing here, but they're interacting with it. And I can put more engaging and content within the Pear Deck. I can put videos in it. I can put websites in it. I can put Google Earth in it. I can put all kinds of stuff in it for my kids to interact with. And therefore it's more engaging. Okay. Can it help me build rapport with my students? Yeah, I think so. If I'm asking them questions and I'm asking the right kinds of questions, then certainly it could be more a rapport building activity. I actually love using the first slide of the day in Pear Deck as a rapport builder. I'll start with something fun, like a question on a preference, like what's your favorite candy bar, or which one of these superheroes is your favorite, or drag the star to your favorite movie, or something like that, to create a discussion with the kids. My students' favorite is when I do a complete the squiggle drawing, which is an idea that I believe I first heard from Amanda Sandoval. And I'd use the scribble tool in Google Slides, which is under the line tool, draw a little squiggle, and then I assign it to my kids as a drawing slide. And while I take attendance, they go through and they turn my squiggle into something else. And then we look at their drawings as a class anonymously and pick our favorites and have a good time laughing at them. But these kinds of activities are great for building rapport with my students, which I need in a remote setting, right? I need to leverage it, and I need to really be deliberate about building it lots of ways. And Anna Maria points out this or that questions. Yeah, I use a lot of those too. And those are fun ways just to build in little rapport building activities and fun into your learning for students. Maybe that should be on my list here. It's just fun should be part of my goals here. Okay. Formative assessment. They're both fantastic formative assessment tools. Can they help me amplify student voices? Yes, because I could take a student's answer that is really good and present it anonymously to the class and let them see it. Or I could tell the kids who it was too, if I really want to amplify that kid's voice when they give a really good answer. Okay. Can it be good for feed forward? Yeah, I can give them feedback right there in the app, or I could just use it to gather a lot of information that I could then provide kids with feedback on. Okay. Can they give feedback to me? Yeah, I can ask them questions that ask how things are going. Pear Deck actually at the end of the lesson asks, how did that lesson go? And I get a bunch of smiley faces or thumbs up or thumbs down about how well the lesson went. And that gives me that feedback that I could use moving forward. Not really a way to give for them to give each other feedback. You might be able to build in a hack for doing that, or put in certain activities within it that could build that in. But I think you could use it as a summative assessment tool. It might not be the best summative assessment tool out there. It might not be as seamless for summative assessment tools, a tool like EduDuctTape or EdSite or things like that. But if you're already using Pear Deck or Nearpod, maybe don't learn a new tool. Maybe use this as a summative assessment tool as well. Okay. Certainly could be a rich method of assessment because the kids could respond with text or with drawings, or I can embed something like a Flipgrid in there and have them respond with their voice and video. Okay. Not really a parent communication tool, but it's great for social emotional needs. Not only can I ask questions in it that help with their social emotional needs, but if my students see that I'm listening to their answers and hearing what they're saying, that helps with it. Also, both tools have lessons available for social emotional needs, specifically geared towards that. And Pear Deck actually at the beginning asks the students, how are you feeling today? Smiley face, frowny face, or like a straight line face. And then I always respond to my kids that have the frowny face, say, hey, privately, how are you doing? Is everything okay? Like, is there anything I can help with? A lot of the times the kids actually say, oh, I clicked on an accident. And I think sometimes that's honest and sometimes it's a lie. But in that situation, I know that at least they know that I cared enough to reach out to them, right? So even if they're not comfortable telling me what's up, at least they know that I care. And maybe in the future, when they need to tell somebody, I'll be the person they feel comfortable telling it to. Okay. Also, they're both great for content delivery, obviously, and they're both good for differentiation. Not perfect for differentiation, but there's a lot of different ways my students can respond. Built into Pear Deck and Nearpod. And there's also a little bit of accessibility features built in there. They both could be better at it, but they're both pretty good at it, have the immersive reader and things like that built into it. I can record audio for my slides for if I'm doing an asynchronous lesson. My kids can listen to my voice, in case they can't read the text on the screen, so that can help them out too. Okay. But the way that I defined these 4 different tools as my MVPs is by thinking about them from an educational duct tape mindset. Educational technology is at its most useful when it is not the goal of the lesson, but a tool used to solve a problem or meet a goal. And finally, I also thought about E plus R equals O. What is the event that I have going on in my learning environment right now? What is the outcome that I want to get to? And what response can I use to help me get there? And that also is what educational duct tape is all about. Thinking about the tools as responses to these events to help me get to those outcomes. Once again, my name is Jake Miller. You can access these slides at jakemiller.net/4MVPs. You can also reach out to me at that contact information there. You can also send me a message if you have a question or anything like that there, or just enter in to try to win one of those prizes there. I'll keep an eye on the chat over here. I don't see any questions currently, but if you have any questions, please do feel free to throw them in there. While a few of you I know are preparing to take a break and step away from your computer, the last thing I want to tell you is, as a parent, I'm grateful for the work you're putting in for your students. And as a teacher, I am proud of the work that you're doing right now on a Saturday afternoon, on a Saturday on your day off, to do even better for your students. So thank you for that. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate you guys. If you have questions, please feel free to stick them in there, though.
Thank you, Jake. Thank you so much for that wonderful session. I loved hearing about some of the things that we've already used, and then how you can actually use them a little bit better and more efficiently there. The session 6 code is encourage. So make sure that you put that code in when you get that email. And if anyone doesn't have any other questions, then we are good to go. And thank you guys very much.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. Thanks for being a part of this.
All right. Thank you.